You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Going North podcast, we're back at you again with another returning guest. So that means something good is happening here because, my goodness, we got one heck of a big return for it today because this gentleman right here has dropped so much great content in 2020 back in January and then back again for his return in September. And this year in 2021, it's no different, but different at the same time because this wonderful gentleman right here, he loves his core values of authenticity, courage, and connection. And he uses those core values to coach rock star business owners to double their revenue, double their time off, and be a more extraordinary entrepreneur, partner, parent, and leader. So let's give it up for the great return of the one, the only CEO of Supreme Focus, David Wood. How you doing today, David?
Woohoo, dude! I love that intro. It feels very uplifting. I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. I just got off a great client session. I'm pumped. I get so excited sometimes about marketing and engaging customers, and I got to nerd out on that. And then call with my co-author for the upcoming book, Name That Mouse, and we're all pumped, and we got a writing schedule now to bring because we just achieved our goal with the Kickstarter campaign, and so now we're committed. Now we're producing a book for the world, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations. And I was so excited when you told me after the recording was over last year about the title and the whole idea of the book. And now it's like, oh, right. A year later, like my man is on the roll to really making it manifest now.
Yep, yep, that's right. Yeah, it's been a year. We haven't really pushed it. We've just been stewards for the product guides. We've been like kind of guiding it along, and we got a trailer written, 15-page mini book, and now it's time to come birth the full book into the world.
Oh, yeah, that's right. A full book into the world. That's what I'm talking about. So, my goodness, this is probably one of the more interesting titles that have popped up on my radar in a long time. Name That Mouse. So, for those who are interested in what the heck that means, mind going deeper into that, David?
I'd love to. You want to name that mouse because the elephant isn't the only animal in the room. And I came up with the title because once in a course, a woman was very excited. She said, "You've just got to name the thing." I'm like, "What do you mean? What thing?" The thing. You got to name the thing. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Whatever's going on in the room, whatever's going on in your body, whatever's going on in your mind, that's the thing you got to name." And she's right. It's because when we've got a thought or a feeling or emotion and we don't share it with the other person, we create distance. There's distance now. They don't know what's really going on. They're relating to their story about us. We're relating to our story about them. We don't know what's really going on with them too. And then I wanted something to relate it to. I wanted people to be able to relate to something they already know. And everyone knows about the elephant in the room. You see it, Dom. I see it. No one's saying anything. That's the elephant in the room. Let's suppose I was 5 minutes late to this podcast and I didn't say anything. Well, that might be a bit of an elephant. Or let's say it's 10 minutes late and I show up and, my hair's disheveled. I got some blood on my face and I'm like, all right, let's go. Well, there isn't clearly an elephant in the room. We all know it. But many creatures are much more subtle. Let's suppose I'm 3 or 4 minutes late and I'm thinking, is Dom annoyed that I'm late? That's a mouse. I could share that. I might be also feeling embarrassed. Might be embarrassed that I'm late, and I'm wondering, is there impact on Dom? Is there not? So I could name that mouse and be more connected with you. Hey, Dom, I notice I'm 3 minutes late. I apologize. I want to check, is there any impact on you? Did I throw you out? How can I make it right? This is the power of mouse naming. And then you might say, hey, it was all good. I'm just chilling. We got plenty of time. Or you might be like, yeah, I did feel a little disrespected, and then we get to talk about that and be connected. So name that mouse because the elephant is not the only animal in the room.
That is so powerful right there. Just love that title. Love the fact that you're calling it a mouse because it's so true about the classic cliche of like, hey, it's the elephant in the room. It's so big that we have to acknowledge it, but people don't. But it's really like you say, a mouse. It's so small that sometimes we sometimes try to push it off to the side. And really, I feel like this book is really going to help a lot of people amp up genuine authenticity since that's a buzz where people want to talk about being authentic. Well, if you want to amp up true authenticity in the world, then this is probably the solution to that.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It is so small, and which is another reason for calling it a mouse. And look, maybe I see it, and I don't know if you see it, but I'm wondering, is Dom thinking this? I'll give you this might be quite a humorous example, but it wasn't very funny for me at the time. I recently had a medical procedure that required me to I had a colonoscopy. I'm 52, and after 50, they say go and get that checkup. I didn't realize what was involved, and at 6 o'clock one night, I had to start drinking a concoction which would flush my system. And I got to drink like 10 glasses of this vile stuff. Now that's 6 p.m., right? At 7 p.m., I had a date with a woman. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't realize that these two wouldn't go well together. So she comes over at 7 o'clock. I started drinking the stuff at 6 o'clock. By the time she gets here, my system is gurgling and making sounds. I'm having cramps. I'm bloated. I'm going to the bathroom every 10 minutes. And it wasn't an elephant in the room because I could hide it largely. But I'm naming mice with you guys right now. I had gas, man. I had bad gas. And I'm like, you know what? This is really awkward. And I decided to walk the talk and I decided to name some mice. And I said, look, I just want to let you know, and this is embarrassing for me. I'm drinking this stuff that's having my system flush. You might see me leave the room several times because I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to try and spare you from the gas because no one should have to go through that. And she was amazing. She said, look, that's totally fine. Now I know what to expect and I know what's going on. And who know, anything else could have happened. She could have said, look, do you want to have this be another night? We can reschedule. She could have said that. Or she could have said, let's hang out outdoors so the gas isn't an issue. But we got to connect and relate over that. And now she knew what was going on for me. And I think what that created was more connection between us. And that was good information for her to have because later on in the evening, I started feeling nauseous and I was ill and I had to actually cut the evening short. But at least she had context now. She's like, oh, I totally understand because I know what's going on. It wasn't a massive surprise. How weird would it be? Hey, you know what? I really need you to leave now. And just give her no reason. That's bizarre to me. That's more bizarre to me in my world than what I did and the stuff that I shared. And that might seem weird because you can say, well, no, that was totally bizarre that you shared that. I say it's more bizarre to try and keep it all a secret. Now, I'm also not saying, Dom, that you should share absolutely everything that runs through your head and every emotion and every sensation. If you're the CEO of a company, you're not going to go to the board and say, I'm freaking out. We're running off a cliff and I don't know what to do. We're going under. Help. You're not going to do that. You'll do that with your coach. And then you might go to the board and say, some of you might be worried in this current climate. I don't blame you. I am too. We don't have all the solutions yet, but together we'll work them out. Right? There are ways to artfully name your mice, and that's where the book comes in. You want to do it in an artful way that brings you closer and actually gives you more influence and allows you to step into extraordinary leadership. Because I say this is a quality of an extraordinary leader.
Amen to that. My goodness, that is freaking powerful. And it's great you gave those two great examples like that because it's in a way, I kind of feel like sometimes we some of us may put on like these masks of our professions or maybe a certain face when we're around family or friends. And in a way, it's like it's kind of way breaking the fourth wall and just bringing us back into reality, and also keeping common sense in mind and not speaking your whole entire mind to everybody, because everybody doesn't need to know that. Because I think sometimes with the authenticity being a big thing nowadays, some people take it too far and they may try to speak everything that's going on in their minds when people don't need to know all that information. That's TMI.
That's true. And you just blew my mind with what you just said about breaking the fourth wall. And for people who don't know, that's an acting terminology, right? So for people who don't know, when you're on stage, you've got three walls. You got the left wall, the right wall, the rear wall. There's a wall, an imaginary wall between you and the audience that you normally never break. You're performing and the audience doesn't exist. And rarely an actor might break the fourth wall and actually talk to the audience and say something. And by the way, this is relevant for me right now because I'm auditioning for a play, a Dracula play here in Boulder, and my last play that I did was when I was 5 years old.
Oh wow.
So this is a big deal. So I'm
Wow.
getting into acting, and what you're suggesting is that in our lives there's a fourth wall. We are performing. We are hiding our true feelings and thoughts from other people. So it's like we're on a stage doing a performance. And what you're suggesting is let's break that fourth wall and actually speak to the person directly. Hey, this is what's going on for me. I just want to lay it out and then see how you feel about that and what are we going to do about it. I want this for the world. I want it for you. I want it for me. I want more transparency, artful transparency.
Mm.
And I believe this will bring us all closer together. Sure, you'll have some hiccups. Sure, you'll have, along the way, you might be like, all right, this person's angry now, right? They've got mice. They got more mice coming up because of my mice, right? But I'm here to hear their mice as well. I want them to name their mice. And then here's what I did with my roommate recently. I got a roommate who's 21 years old. And I was nervous about getting someone with such a big age gap. And we got triggered one night. I was all stressed and I set a boundary, and then he was really annoyed, and I couldn't relax. And I finally called him and I said, "Are we good? Because I'm just checking because I'm feeling really stressed up here." He said, "Well, I'm feeling really pissed." And I said, "What do you say we talk about this tomorrow morning? We'll get together, we'll sort it all out." He said, "Yeah, because I don't want to yell at you now." I said, "Okay, thank you." When we got together, I said, "Here's a timer. One of us is going to speak uninterrupted for 3 minutes, and then we'll switch." And he said, "Oh, I don't know if I can go 3 minutes. I'm not going to remember everything. I'm going to have stuff I'm going to want to say." I said, "Exactly. And I want to have the experience of feeling fully heard. And I want you to have that same experience. So are you willing to try it?" He said, "All right, I'll try it." So I went for 3 minutes, switched the timer over to him. He said, "I only need a minute." He talked for 10 minutes, right? Which was great. And I just
Nice.
shut up and I listened to everything. He got to name all of his mice. And then it went back to me. And we went back and forth with a 3 minute timer for 45 minutes until everything was out. Everything was done. His mice in response to my mice in response to that. Everything, because it's layered, right? And then
Hmm.
at the end of 45 minutes, we were totally done, totally in sync, and I felt like I had an ally again in the house. So they are, listeners. If you're worried that you're not going to get everything out, maybe your partner's got a lot of charge, and maybe they're going to yell, or maybe they want to jump in and interject. You can try this timer thing. It's back and forth, 3 minutes until everyone's done.
Man, that's a powerful tip right there. It almost always excited every time you come on the show, man, because you're always dropping something new, because that's a powerful activity right there. And it takes guts to do that activity, especially since he had 10 minutes of stuff on his mind that he had to get out right there. So that's something folks need to take away instantly nowadays, especially with last year, where a lot of relationships probably were tested strongly last year, and not a lot of them survived, and a lot of new relationships have surfaced as a result. So this will be good for those who may be new couples or even not just romantic couples, but just roommates and other relationships to test their strength and really to have this tool as a tangible takeaway to add to their arsenal in case some things may be feeling a little rocky and they need to get rid of that mouse infestation in a way, since there were so many mice dropped at that at that 45-minute session between you two.
Yeah, exactly. I became like I've always been a fan of mouse naming, but this was an extra layer when there's charge, and particularly if you're dealing with someone who's not trained in listening, which is most humans.
Mm.
Right? If you're not trained in listening, you start telling your partner, "Hey, I want to talk about finances," and then the partner jumps in with, "Well, I don't want to spend any more money on this," and you're like, well, I only just got started talking. Like, can you give me some space? It can be awkward. So there's a little technique that could give you the space that I think so many of us are craving to actually share uninterrupted and to be heard.
That's right. That's right. Because folks definitely want to be heard. They definitely want to feel valued indeed. And love the fact that you're mentioning that. And heck, even with this powerful book to really change the world and just really start naming that mice, because I know that the elephant probably gets enough marketing and publicity. Let's give the mice some publicity because I'm pretty sure there's more mice in the world than elephants.
That's right. The elephant is the tip of the iceberg, to mix our metaphors now. It's so obvious. It's so in your face. And we all know, like, man, should we address the elephant in the room? There's so much more going on. Now, I didn't know this. Growing up, I had some trauma as a kid, and my little sister was killed, and I was there. I witnessed it. And apparently, what trauma survivors do is they learn to shut down their emotions and not feel as a defense mechanism. So I learned to just get very cerebral and jump over feelings, jump over what's happening, and get to something practical. Like, oh, what do I want? What do I do? Maybe I've got a request. Maybe, I'm very solution focused. And what I've been trying to do, and people have been trying to get me to do since I moved to Boulder, is slow down. Slow down and work out what's happening inside, because there's so much. So maybe someone, with that medical procedure I did this week, I was high as a kite when I left the hospital. They dope you up on all sorts of stuff, and they won't even let an Uber driver pick you up because you are so doped up. And my friend who picked me up shared how funny I was and some of the things that I said and some of the things that I did. And what happened, there were reactions in me as I listened to her messages, and then I kind of just skipped over that and jumped onto something else and something more practical. And I think I apologized. And then the next morning I woke up and I realized, David, there was a lot more that was happening in you as you listened to those messages. You got some mice. And when I slowed it down and replayed it, I was like, oh, I felt embarrassed. I felt embarrassed that maybe I had her feel uncomfortable with some of the jokes I was making, and I think I was hitting on her as well, and so I felt that embarrassment, and then I had a chance then to go and name that mouse. I said, I just want to name. I feel embarrassed. It seemed like I was out of control. I don't like to lose control. Is there something that I can apologize for? And we just got it all sorted out. But that's an example of how I wasn't even consciously aware of what was happening in my system. And we do that so much, is just stuff it down, skip over it. And as you read the book, and I hope listeners, I hope you will get the book and read through this. I hope you'll be inspired to slow down to the speed of connection. So that you can start revealing mice to yourself. And we call these in the book mirror mice. A mirror mouse is one where you name it to yourself. You know what? I felt insulted when that person said that to me, or I felt really inspired hearing my friend share about that, and I didn't even name that. I could go and name that. Wow, I'm really inspired by you. Mice don't have to be negative. Another category of mice in the book is appreciation mouse. You might appreciate yourself for something. That's an appreciation mouse. You might appreciate someone else. One thing I enjoy about you, Dom, is your energy and your enthusiasm. I just feel like hanging out with you. It's a party, whatever we're doing. So there's an example of an appreciation mouse.
Man, oh man, my dude just freaking went on a blitzkrieg of freaking one-liners, man. Like slow down to the speed of connection. Like my goodness, my man's been dropping heat. And then of course the mirror mice. And the mice don't have to be negative. It's like, hey, you can see a mice as a pet. I'm sure there are people out there who have mice as pets. So I'm not saying I'm one of them. Not saying I'm a fan of having mice as pets, but they can be pets, metaphorically speaking. They don't have to be negative. And of course, appreciation mice are showing gratitude to just other people and for the moments that you're in. And heck, even the fact that sometimes we might have to really deal with some traumatic experiences that we may have had in the past and just finding ways to really deal with those situations, sometimes clearing them. So my goodness, man, like so many things you mentioned there are so darn true for I'm sure just about everyone listening right now because I'm sure there's people walking around where they may have had something so shocking, so traumatic where they just bury their emotions and they charge forward so fast to where they keep their calendars so full that they have no time for true deep self-awareness.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people. It's a constant dance. I fill my life with well, during the pandemic it was a lot more television and video games, and now I'm balancing it more with ultimate frisbee and going to improv and learning to act. And yesterday I spent 25 minutes because I'm reading this play and I'm trying to prepare for auditioning for it. And I thought I had my accents down because I can do a British accent pretty easily. And I get to the end of the play and it says Professor Van Helsing speaks with a Germanic accent. I'm like, what? And my friend was coming over to read the play with me. So 20 minutes before she arrives, I'm like, I got 20 minutes to learn a German accent. It was so much fun. So anyway, I'm filling life with those things. And I got people coming over for a games night tonight. And it's fun. And I think, I'm not saying don't do it, but the more we do that, the less we might be aware of what's happening for us. Like, oh, I'm nervous about money this week. I'm feeling annoyed by my roommate and wishing I was living alone. Right? We might have, this is one of the reasons I think one of the benefits of meditation. So yesterday, sometimes when I meditate, I listen to a podcast or a hypnosis track or something. But yesterday I was like, no, David, let your mind do whatever it needs to do. Let's give it some downtime to think about stuff and realize things. So yeah, I'm not. I look, if any listeners are like, I'm not going to take more time to realize what's going on with myself. I want more distractions. I can relate. Fine, do that. But if you're like, no, I want to slow down to the speed of connection. I want to know more of what's happening with myself. Then yeah, you can get a therapist. You can do more meditation. You can read the Name That Mouse book. You can take long walks where you're not listening to something or talking on the phone to become more aware of what's happening inside you. Also, I'll give a plug to, there's a company called Authentic Relating Training. And this is where I got a lot of this information. So Jason Diggs and Rael created this company, and it's amazing training. You can do it online now. So I want to give them a plug.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Plug away indeed, because that's the good thing about this age of connectivity and globalization. Like things are more easily and readily available to us. And if something's good out there, folks should know about it.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of plugging, one of the ways I learned this information is by partnering with the Realness Project, which is a nonprofit that goes into prisons in Colorado and they teach prison inmates how to name their mice. They teach inmates to learn what's going on inside them and how to communicate that. Because managing emotions, if you can't handle anger or sadness and whatever, One thing we can do to try and handle that is medicating. And
Mm.
so I think it goes hand in hand with addiction and relieving addiction. And so by going into prisons and teaching's often how I learn. I just opened my eyes and got me so passionate that I'm now writing a book about it. And listeners, if you love the idea of us teaching prison inmates on how to name mice and how to be with the world, how to re-engage with the world and with their families and with themselves. And you can Google Realness Project, the Realness Project, and they would love a donation. $5, $10, $50, $500, whatever feels good to you. It's incredible what they're doing. They even running on fumes with like little money, they can impact so many inmates. So your money will go a long way.
That's what I'm talking about because I was curious about that too. Because I know you mentioned that on the first time you're here, and it's great that you're still a part of that because it sounds impactful. And what I love about this, it seems like it's because I'm thinking back to the first conversation, the second one, and this one. It's like an evolution because the first time you have the tough conversations where we have to really have those conversations that we're scared of having, and people are so scared to have them, to where visit number 2 with Name That Mountain and Climbing Faster, it's like you it feel like you've gotten back to the tough conversations mountain, but this time with some shoe polish in a more acceptable tone to where folks are like, "Oh yeah, name that mountain." Yeah, it's basically those tough conversations in addition to this that may stick out to people that sometimes people may be afraid of, and just really giving folks a more, I guess, a more palatable version of it. At least that's what I feel like this might be. Does that sound about right to you?
Palatable version. Yeah, if I'm getting you right, what I want, here's my vision. My vision is that I want kids to come up to their parents and say, "Hey, mommy, can I name a mouse with you?" I want leaders in corporations to say to their team, "I just want to name a mouse, just to name it so I can let it go and be more present with you. I'm tired today. I was up late working on this project and you may notice it and I'm here and I'm with you. I just want to name that. I want partners say, "Hey, can I name a mouse with you? There's something I want to bring up. It's not a big deal." Or, "Hey, I got a pretty big mouse I want to talk about." That's I want that in mainstream language because I don't know that we have anything like that currently in mainstream language. Now, the closest, but this is not mainstream. The closest that I have in my communities is, "Hey, I have a withhold I'd like to share with you." Now, that's for people who've done a bunch of communication courses. They understand the concept of a withhold. There's something I haven't been sharing it with you, and I'd like to share it. I understand that. So if someone says that to me, I know what it is. But most people don't have that. So this is bringing it into mainstream language. I think it was, oh, I'm going to get the name wrong. There's someone said language is the house of being,
Mm.
and it starts with H. It's Heidinger or Heisinger or something. And I don't ever say that quote, but it's coming to me now because as we shift our language, we can shift our being. We have the
Mm.
language of naming mice. Now we can name mice with others and have that change the world.
And oh man, shift your language, shift your being. My goodness. That's right. My man's like a freaking jewelry shop, baby, with all these jewels, baby. I'm telling you. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, since it's been a marvelous year since the first visit, we'll just circle back around to the magical question. Actually, better yet, before that question, there's a question that you wish you'd be asked more often about this project since you've been on a couple podcasts already talking about. Is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often that you may have not received yet with this project?
I like that question. Nothing comes to mind, but I like the opportunity to be able to say it.
Oh, all right. All right. It sounds good indeed. Sounds good indeed. Heck, there might even be a chance for maybe is Now that thinking about it, even playing even deeper into the metaphor, some people may think like, "Oh man, I got a mouse infestation in my home." Like no one wants to talk about anything. And I feel like that timing activity might have been probably a great tool for dealing with that as a metaphorical exterminator for getting more clarity and getting rid of the mice in the house. Do you think there may be something in addition to that? So if someone may be like, "Okay, we need to name these mice, and we have to really kind of exterminate them for a lack of a better word."
Well, I think you bring up a very important point. And this book is not about exterminating your mice. This is not about getting rid of your mice. This is not about killing them or suffocating them or any of that. This is purely about naming your mice and, to the extent possible, welcoming your mice. Now, yeah, maybe you do have an infestation because mice tend to breed. So if say with my roommate, when he cleans the fry pan, he doesn't seem to clean the lid very well. So the lid's still covered with grease and whatever. So yeah, there's a mouse I have, right? Now, the longer that goes and I don't mention that, then I notice something else in the kitchen. And let's say I don't mention that. And these mice might get a little bigger. Now I got a bit more charge because there's already something and now there's something else and whatever. So they can tend to breed, but we don't need to kill any of them. And that in itself, that mindset can be a real problem because now you think there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the fact that I'm angry. There's something wrong with the fact that he's got an emotion, he's feeling really sad. There's something wrong. No, there's nothing wrong at all. These are who we are. These are feelings, these are emotions, these are thoughts, these are part of our reality. Let's welcome our mice and care for them and simply name them to acknowledge their existence. And then you may find that they fade away on their own. If you had you have an appreciation mouse and you've been, or let's say I'm single right now. Let's say I'm attracted to a woman and I don't even mention it. All right. Well, it might be kind of something that's in between us and I'm feeling a little bit weird about it. But if I could just say one day, I just want to name, I think you're amazing and I'd love to spend more time with you, then it's not in between us anymore. Or maybe she's got a mouse now that she wants to talk about. She's like, hey, I'm not interested in anything more than friendship. Okay, all right, great. We get on the same page. But sometimes you name the mouse and it just fades into the background now. All it needed was to be named and be
Hmm.
acknowledged. That might be it. I was 15 minutes late for a call today and I didn't know it. I thought we were starting at a certain time. And she said, I just want to name it. I thought we were coming 15 minutes early and I was here ready. And so I got to apologize. She said, I'm totally good. I just had to name it. Now I'm present. Now here I am. So let's let's not try and kill our mice. I think that can be counterproductive and kind of squish them down and hide them. No, we're gonna welcome our mice. We may not necessarily feed them, but we're gonna name them. We're gonna acknowledge them. We're gonna welcome them.
Ah, powerful. Love it. That's right, folks. So don't give them no cheese and don't kill them. That's right. We just got to name them.
Yep, yep, yep. All the animals. Some of them are going to be big mice. Some of them be so big they look like a hedgehog. Some of them might look more like antelope size. There's all sorts of. Some of them are pretty big mice. I call it a mouse when it's not obvious that the other person knows about it. If it's clear that everyone knows about it, then it's an elephant. Anything less than that, I'm not sure. Maybe Dom sees it, maybe he doesn't. I had a friend over yesterday to read this play, and I'm trying to do this in a German accent, which is quite comical. And I made a couple of jokes, and I was teasing her a little bit, and she wasn't having a good day. And so I'm realizing that's a mouse that I have. It came up into my head twice today, and I might, in fact, I'm going to write it down so that it doesn't slip out of my head. And I'll just send her a note seeing how she's doing and saying, if that teasing yesterday wasn't well received, then I apologize. I just want to check in. There's a mouse, right? Boom. You're wondering, oh, I wonder how they took that. Boom. There's a mouse.
There we go. There we go. Powerful right there. Powerful right there. Because it's so true nowadays, especially with stuff like that, because you're right, because a lot of folks, they are more open to their feelings and their emotions. Sometimes we may think that our jokes, like even myself, I like to joke around a lot myself, and sometimes I can push it a little close to the edge sometimes, especially for certain environments. They may not appreciate them, and just naming that mouse and just really just acknowledging it for what it was and for what it is, and just bring it up to the person, and that way to try to keep things good for the whole environment, so that way it doesn't really weigh everybody down, and we have a it gets to the point where it becomes an elephant in the room, or even a or even a
Yes.
hedgehog.
Yes, and this is this is obviously applicable in your personal relationships and your family life, and it's also, I think, hugely applicable in the corporate environment. So if you're a manager, you got a team, or you're part of a team, these mice separate us when they're not named. They separate us. Your team might have all sorts of charge on the company. There might be things the company's done that we don't like. There might be things our co-workers have done that we're not feeling good about. And these mice tend to breed. And an unhappy employee is incredibly expensive because even unconsciously, they may sabotage performance, or they leave and you've invested 5 years of training in this person. It's incredibly expensive. I say spend some money on mice naming, get some training for the team, have it be part of the culture that we encourage this. We want want mice to be artfully named so that we can really be on the same page and work together and enjoy each other. The unnamed mice are the cancer of organizations and teams.
And man's gonna have a lot of quote picks when it comes time to polish this up. My goodness, unnamed mice are the cancer of an organization, because that's so darn true. Because a lot of folks, they may be scared to say something because they want to keep their jobs, and they unconsciously may sabotage the company's progress. And companies don't want that, especially nowadays, if they survived the Grim Reaper year of last year for a lot of businesses and people. So yeah, definitely. So definitely, if you're one of the HR reps listening to this episode, be sure to bring David and his team to help you name some mice in that organization. So that way you can bring them out to the open. And that way the mice will be like, hey, they acknowledge us. They didn't kill us. All right, I guess we'll leave on our own now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. Well, coming down to the magical question for every guest, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're at 25 again, but this time in 2021, with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, and with all these mice that have names, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, at 25, I'd say embark on a journey of personal growth now. Get yourself in the best course you can find and keep going. I did discover that at the age of, I think I was about 26 and a half or 27 when I discovered my first personal growth course, but as early as possible. I wish I'd done it when I was 17, because I'd be a superhuman by now. So personal growth, personal growth, personal growth, authentic relating. I wish I'd studied that earlier instead of discovering that 3 years ago at the age of 49. It's been an absolute game changer for my peace, for my confidence, for my influence, for my business success. Um, it's everything. This book, Name That Mouse, will give people a good chunk of it. It give you a good slice of it. But I don't know if there's any real replacement for working with a dedicated coach or therapist who's trained in this stuff, or going in and doing an immersive program like the Landmark Forum or something like that.
Man, rock solid indeed. Boulder solid, even.
Yep, boulder solid.
That's right. So that's right, folks. A game changer for your peace, y'all. I'm telling you. That's right. There's probably countless people out there that want a game changer just for their inner peace. That's right. That's right. Once you name that mice, it'll be closer to reality, folks. It can definitely be yours indeed. My goodness. Well, I've enjoyed this one, man. This is freaking good. I feel like it's been getting better and better. So, so that means when the next project comes out, interview number 4 will be even better and not butter. And all of them have been great. So, for those who want to keep in contact and buy some copies of the book, heck, even invite you to speak, even virtually still, since I'm sure a lot of companies decide to work from home and easier for both parties. What's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, thanks, Dom. If something resonates for you here and you'd like more mouse naming, more connection, more transparency for your team or your company or for your life, then go to namethatmouse.com. It'll take you to a specific page on my website where you can get involved with the book. You can either buy the book or you can get on the notification list for when the book comes out, depending on when you get to the page. And if you go into the navigation of that page, you can use the contact form to reach out to me and say, hey, this is the kind of support I'm looking for my team or company or my life. And you can even request a coaching session where we'll see what you need and see if we might be a fit. So namethatmouse.com.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Namethatmouse.com. It'll be in the show notes as well. And I'll also put links to the other 2 appearances David had on this podcast because it is good as gold and platinum, y'all. Definitely. This man's a walking wealth of wisdom, and my man's been dropping and leaving something for the listeners. So definitely check out this wonderful book. Buy some copies. Tell your friends about it. Name the mice in your life. If you want to name a mice Gina, go ahead and name it Gina if you want, because we definitely want this to spread around the world, and hopefully we'll have that true, genuine authenticity that we need in the world. So, any parting words before we close up shop, David?
This has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
You just got done listening to another powerful, power-packed episode of the Going North podcast. I hope you really enjoyed what you heard. Go check out the guest stuff. It's all in the show notes on the website, dombrightman.com, and also reach out to those that you've just heard as well. And keep going north.